Are you even listening to me?
I don't watch horror movies personally, and when I was taking requests for reviews, one of the stipulations was that the request could not, in fact, be a horror movie. The reason I gave at the time was that I didn't understand the genre well enough to give an accurate assessment. That was horse garbage. The real reason I said no horror movies is that I have an honest-to-God anxiety problem, and horror films, among many other things, are a big trigger for it. I like sleeping, I don't like waking up out of night terrors, so I tend to avoid these altogether. I'm a lot less sensitive about my personal shortcomings now, though, so I have no problem revealing this unfortunate personality quirk. So, no horror films was the general rule, but I decided to make an exception in this case, for two reasons. First, this isn't exactly a strictly horror film as much as it is a dark comedy targeted at horror film tropes, kind of like Scream. There's definitely some grotesque imagery here at times, but it's all in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way, and all in the name of fun. The second reason I gave this a green light is that the film was co-written by Joss Whedon, who has been doing supernatural stories with a twist for a while now, but never quite to this extent, so I had to check this one out. And I have to say, even though I had heard that this was a supernatural film with a twist, I didn't know it was going to be this big a twist, or that it would be this original, so needless to say, I was pleasantly surprised. The framework for this film is your typical teen horror setup. You have four young people that we don't really care about spending time together in someone's cousin's cabin. Weirdness and insanity surrounds them, but of course they all shrug it off in your typical, dude, this is all weird but whatever sort of way. The one and only person they meet on their way to the cabin is the usual foreboding personality with a generic warning that they all ignore. The cabin itself is filled with creepy imagery and strangely placed two-way mirrors that they all ignore as well. Nothing that interesting so far, but there is a side story that accounts for one of the most original takes on this formula that I have ever seen. See, the twist here is that there is what seems to be a mega-corporation that is setting all of this up, which constantly puts you off kilter in terms of the film's tone. For the kids mixed up in all of this, we get your standard brain-dead reactions to an environment that they should clearly be running away from, but to the people working in this control room, this is a job, and they regard it exactly as such.
Can you take a message?
I don't think so. He's really pushy. To be honest, he's kind of freaking me out.
Okay.
Typically, I will expect nothing more than amusement in dark comedies like these. That's about the maximum that I felt for Scream. Amusement. Never do I expect any seriously big laughs, but that's exactly what I got with this aspect of the film. Every time the film switches to the suits pulling all the strings, it's hilarious. These people have seen it all before, and they know what's going to happen. This means that they're either going to regard this as a drag, or try to invent new ways of having fun with a tedious job, just as anyone would do with any job. That was damn clever, because anyone who is even remotely familiar with the teen horror formula is likely feeling the same way. You are the people in that control room. You know what's coming just as the suits do, and a lot of their reaction mirrors typical audience reactions as well. So even if you're like me and you don't care for this particular kind of film, you can still enjoy it by seeing it from the point of view of these people. At first, I thought that the people in the control room were just making all of this supernatural stuff up, as if it was all going to be done with costumes and technology. Hell, we saw a force field in place at the beginning of the movie, so how real could it be? But the truth turns out to be very different. As the kids acclimate to the cabin, the people in the control room start placing bets as to what the kids are going to do when they get down to the basement. When they're finally lured down there, they begin rummaging through items and eventually read off a haunted diary. Then, much to my surprise, this actually raises a family of zombies. Honest-to-God, supernatural zombies. So we actually have supernatural occurrences being overseen and facilitated by a corporation, which made this even more of a delight for me. It's kind of like Jurassic Park in a way, where things that shouldn't be are overseen in a controlled environment. Except instead of dinosaurs, we have redneck zombie families. Each character gets picked off one at a time, just as you would expect, and the people in the control room are delighted at this, as they seem to have some vested interest in the teen's demise. You see, it turns out that this is all part of a yearly worldwide ritual to appease a few ancient beings called the Ancient Ones. The Ancient Ones are dormant beneath the facility and remain asleep as long as these sacrifices are made to them. The sacrifices specifically have to be 5 young people, all of whom fit certain archetypes: the whore, the athlete, the scholar, the fool, and the virgin. You can kill them in almost any order you like, so long as the whore dies first and the virgin dies last, if at all. Failure to carry this ritual out every year will result in the Ancient Ones waking up and destroying the Earth, and so this familiar formula with the one-dimensional characters actually plays into a specific sacrifice, which adds a great deal of humor to the familiar story. This is why the suits are so invested in the success of the kid's demise, and why they get so frustrated and pissed off when things don't go according to plan. And that's where this film is at its funniest. Their reactions when the monsters succeed are hilarious, but their reactions when the monsters fail are even more hilarious. Occasionally, they even sound like some of my own reviews.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
And just when you think this idea is getting old, they pull the rug out from under you once again. As I said, the kids release a zombie family that picks them all off, and truth be told, the zombies aren't that interesting, nor are their methods in killing these kids. And remember the bets that the corporate guys were taking as to what horror the kids would unleash? Well, just look at that list. Alien Beast, Sugar Plum Fairy, Kevin. Everything on that whiteboard was funny as hell, but as the film kept going on, I almost felt disappointed that we were never actually going to see any of these things, especially since the redneck zombie family seemed like the least interesting thing on the list. But if you think you'll be disappointed, fear not. Eventually 2 of the kids make their way down to the inner sanctum of the corporation, and after wrestling control away from the suits, they unleash everything, and the whole operation just goes to shit. You see everything on the whiteboard, and it's unbelievable. Rarely have I experienced more joy than in seeing this. Pure fun this is, and I think anyone from the most diehard horror fan to the casual moviegoer will enjoy this. The climax, however, is only so-so. Personally, I'm getting a little sick of Sigourney Weaver showing up in every spoof film as a joke. Okay, we get it. She's a sci-fi horror staple, but it's really not that funny. And the ending is bound to cause some controversy as well. I thought it was funny, but some might feel as though they were put through the ringer for no payoff at all. Regardless, this is one that I can wholeheartedly recommend. It's unique, it's all in good fun, and you'll probably come away from it laughing a bit harder than you thought you were going to, which is about as much as anyone can ask from a horror spoof.